Solange Coleman got off a fancy private airplane in Seoul, wearing the wedding dress she made herself, because if she was going to be sold into a super-rich family, she would do it her own way. The groom was waiting in a wheelchair, super handsome, with eyes darker than the dark river at midnight. G. Park, the cold mafia boss, the person who would get a huge empire, 1 year of pretend marriage, one house full of enemies, one mystery, person already watching everything she did. What happens when the gold digger and the broken heir start falling in love for real, and the people who poised him want her gone next? Get ready. This marriage is about to blow up. If you just started watching, please like, subscribe, share, and click on the bell button for more fun stories. Your support means everything. Now, let's get started. Solange Coleman stood in the middle of her tiny New York studio, with racks of half-finished dresses and rolls of shiny silk that sparkled like broken promises. The rent notice stuck to the door had been there for 3 weeks. The lights flickered every time the air conditioner turned on. Her phone buzzed again. Another bill collector she ignored. 28 years old, and everything she built was falling apart. She heard the key turn in the lock before she saw her mother. Dolores Coleman walked in wearing her fancy church coat even though it was Tuesday, the smell of her perfume and worry following behind her. "Baby, we need to talk," Dolores said, her voice already shaking. Solange didn't look up from the dress form she was pinning. "But this is about Daddy's latest bad choice. I already told you I have no more money." Dolores put her purse down like it weighed 100 pounds. "It's worse than that." The words hit like a slap. Solange finally turned around. Her mother's eyes were red like they got after too many nights praying over bills. "Your father signed away the house," Dolores whispered, "to pay his gambling debts. They're coming for everything. The house, my retirement money, your business." Solange's stomach dropped. "How much?" 2.3 million, and with extra fees closer to 3 million. The number was crazy. Solange laughed once, sharp and mean. "We don't have $3 million, Mama." "We might," Dolores said quietly. "There's an offer." Solange's hands stopped moving on the fabric. "What kind of offer?" Dolores pulled an envelope from her purse. Thick fancy paper, gold stamp, Korean letters next to pretty English writing. Park Global Holdings. Solange's heart beat hard. She knew the name. Everyone knew the name. Park Jae-hoon was the youngest super-rich heir in South Korea's tech world until the accident that put him in a wheelchair and made half. The business world wondered if he'd ever walk again or lead again. Dolores opened the envelope with shaking fingers. "They want you to marry him." The room tilted. "Marry him?" Solange's voice cracked. "A stranger? A billionaire in a wheelchair? Mama, are you crazy? It's not like that." Dolores rushed on. "It's business. His family needs an American connection. Quiet, clean, no drama. Your uncle's company is the perfect link for their next US business deal. They'll pay off everything. The debt, the house, your studio. They'll give $10 million to your brand. You'll be set for life." Solange grabbed the papers. The contract was 20 pages of legal stuff, but the rules were super clear. 1 year of marriage, showing up to events together, keeping secrets. After 12 months, a friendly divorce, if both people agreed. No kids required, no romance required. But the part that made her blood run cold. If you don't do it, they take every single thing tied to the Coleman name, including her business. "This is human trafficking with nicer paper," Solange said. "It's survival," Dolores argued back. "Your father's in hiding. They sent men with guns to the house last week. You'd think I want this for you? But if we don't do something..." Solange threw the contract on the cutting table. Fabro flew like hurt birds. "I'm not something to sell. You're our only chance," Dolores whispered. Silence stretched between them, thick and choking. 3 days later, Solange sat on a private jet, going to Incheon, wearing a cream silk dress she designed herself, because if she was going to be sold, she'd at least look like the queen she was raised to be. She hadn't talked to her father since he called to cry and say sorry. She hadn't talked to her mother since Dolores hugged her at the airport and whispered, God will forgive us. The flight attendant offered fancy champagne. Solange said no. When the plane landed, a black fancy car waited on the runway. Two men in dark suits bowed a little as she walked down the stairs. One held an umbrella, even though the sky was clear. Rules, she guessed. The drive to Gangnam took 40 minutes. Super tall buildings rose like glass spears. Billboards flashed. In Korean and English, she caught glimpses of her reflection in the dark windows. Full lips painted deep berry color. Braids swept into a pretty high bun. Diamond earrings her grandmother left her. She looked expensive. She felt empty. The Park family house sat on top of a private hill. All sharp corners and black marble. Armed guards at every gate. Inside, just the entrance hall was bigger than her whole apartment. A woman in her late 50s waited at the top of the curved staircase. Madame Park Soo-jin, Ji-hun's mother, wore a navy Korean dress, made modern and fancy, hair pulled into a perfect shiny bun. Her smile was polite and ice cold. "Miss Coleman," she said in perfect English, "welcome to your new home." Solange forced her lips upward. "Thank you for having me." Soo-jin's eyes looked over her, judging. "The ceremony is in 3 hours. Your stylist is waiting. No small talk, no warmth, just business." Upstairs, in a bedroom the size of a gym, 3 Korean women rushed to Solange with dresses, jewelry, makeup. They spoke fast in Korean, measuring, pinning, saying nice things about her body. Solange let them work. She felt like a mannequin. When they finally stepped back, she looked in the full-length mirror and barely knew herself. The wedding dress was ivory silk, off the shoulder with a dramatic train covered with pretty cranes in gold thread, a mix of Korean tradition and Western style. A diamond necklace sat against her neck, heavy as chains. Her makeup was perfect. Glowing skin, winged eyeliner, deep red lips. She looked like royalty. She felt like prey. The ceremony happened in the house's private garden under a canopy of white orchids and floating lanterns. 200 guests, mostly Korean business people, watched in silence. No one clapped when she walked down the flower aisle. No one smiled. Ji-hun Park waited at the altar in a perfectly fitted black tuxedo, sitting in a matte black wheelchair designed to look more like a throne than a medical device. His face was beautiful in a harsh way. High cheekbones, sharp jaw, eyes so dark they swallowed light. His hair was jet black, swept back. No smile, no warmth, just quiet, mysterious strength. When their eyes met, something flickered in his surprise, maybe recognition or pity. Solange's heart slammed against her ribs. The person performing the ceremony spoke in Korean, then English. Vows were exchanged like business terms. Rings slid onto fingers. A single photographer captured every moment for the press release that would definitely come. After the announcement, Ji-hun reached for her hand. His fingers were long, pretty, surprisingly warm. He lifted her knuckles to his lips in the smallest brush of a kiss. Publisher. The guests clapped politely. At the reception, champagne flowed. Toasts were made in Korean. Solange smiled until her cheeks hurt. Ji-hun stayed at the head table, answering questions in short tones, never once looking at her for longer than necessary. Near midnight, as the crowd got smaller, a young man in a charcoal suit walked up to her. Ji-hun's personal helper Taemin. He leaned close, voice barely louder than a whisper. "Be careful, Mrs. Park," he said. "Not everyone in this house wants this marriage to last." Before she could ask what he meant, he disappeared back into the crowd. Solange turned to find Ji-hun watching her from across the room. Their eyes locked. Again. This time there was no flicker of pity, only something darker, something that looked suspiciously like a warning. The night ended with them walked to the master bedroom. The door closed behind them with a soft final click. Ji-hun wheeled to the floor-to-ceiling windows, looking over Seoul's sparkling skyline. He didn't turn around. "You can take the guest room," he said, voice low and even. "Or the couch. I don't care. Just stay out of my way." Solange stood in the center of the huge room, still in her wedding dress, diamonds shining at her throat. "I didn't ask for this either," she said. He finally looked at her then. "We agreed. This is a contract, nothing more." She lifted her chin. "Fine." But as she walked past him toward the connecting door, she caught the faintest smell of cedar and bergamot on his skin. And for one dangerous second, she wondered what it would feel like to be wanted by a man who looked at the world like he could burn it down. She shut the door between them, and the silence that followed felt louder than any vow. The first week in the Park Mansion felt like living inside a museum with a sign that said, "Don't touch." Solange's days were measured in silence and small, choking routines. Breakfast was served at exactly 7 a.m. in the East dining room. Steamed rice, grilled fish, fermented soybean soup, and a single perfectly sliced apple. She hated fish for breakfast. She ate it anyway. Jihan never joined her. He left before sunrise in a group of black SUVs, coming back long after the city lights turned the Han River into liquid silver. When they passed each other in hallways wide enough for 3 people to walk side by side, he gave the smallest nod. Once he paused long enough to say, "The chef can make something else if you want," in that low, careful voice. She told him no. She didn't want favors. She wanted freedom. The staff treated her with perfect politeness and careful distance. The head housekeeper, Mrs. Kim, always bowed a bit deeper when Solange passed. The younger maids whispered behind their hands when they thought she couldn't hear. She caught the word Hukan more than once. Black person. The tone wasn't always mean, but it was never warm. She spent hours in the bedroom they gave her, drawing new designs on the huge glass desk looking at the garden. Her laptop still had the old logo of Coleman Atelier, the brand she'd poured 5 years of her life into. The investment part and the contract promised money, but she hadn't seen a single money transfer yet. She told herself it was coming. She told herself she was still in control. On the 8th night, she couldn't sleep. The mansion was too quiet, no sirens, no neighbors arguing through thin walls, just the distant hum of the city, and the occasional soft chime of the grandfather clock. In the hallway, she slipped out of bed in silk pajama shorts and an oversized t-shirt, barefoot on heated marble floors. The hallway lights dimmed automatically as she moved. She wandered past closed doors until she reached the one she'd been warned about. Han's private study. The door wasn't locked. She told herself she was just curious, just bored, just angry. She pushed it open. The room smelled of cedar, leather, and old paper. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves lined one wall. A huge desk sat in the center, next to 3 computer screens that glowed faintly in sleep mode. On the far side, a glass case showed vintage cameras and a single-framed photograph. Jihan, younger, standing on a yacht with wind in his hair, laughing, legs strong and sure beneath him. Solange's chest tightened. She moved to the desk. One drawer was slightly open. She pulled it. Medical files, dozens of them. She flipped through the top folder. Scans, blood work, poison tests, dated 2 years ago. The words jumped out in serious black and white. Thallium poisoning. Long-term exposure. Permanent nerve damage to lower body. Prognosis. Unlikely to fully recover. Her breath caught. She opened another file. This one had photographs clipped inside. Jihan in a hospital bed, eyes hollow, skin gray. A handwritten note in the margin in English. Attempted murder. Suspect someone inside. Evidence not enough. For charges. Her hand shook. She kept going. A third file had emails. One from a mystery account. The chair is permanent. The Empire is next. A chill crawled up her spine. She was still staring at the screen when the door opened behind her. Jihan wheeled in, stopping short when he saw her. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then he spoke, voice dangerously quiet. "You're in my study." Solange closed the folder. "You were poisoned." His jaw tightened. "Get out." "No." She turned to face him fully. "Someone tried to kill you, and your family knows. They still let you run the company like nothing happened." He rolled closer, eyes narrowing. You have no idea what you're talking about. I know enough. She held up the folder. Thallium, that's not a car accident. That's attempted murder. And you're still here, playing house with a stranger you married. For sure why? Gi-hun's gaze dropped to the papers in her hand, then lifted to her face. Something raw flickered there. Anger, exhaustion, maybe shame. Because if I walk away, they win, he said, and I don't lose. Silence stretched between them, tight as a wire. Solange set the folder down. Who did it? I don't know. His voice was flat. Not for certain, but you suspect. He didn't answer. She took a step toward him. Your sister, your mother, someone in this house. His eyes flashed. Careful. I'm tired of being careful. Her voice rose. I was dragged across an ocean, sold like property, and now I'm living with people who might be murderers. You think I'm going to tiptoe around that? Gi-hun's hands gripped the arms of the chair so hard his knuckles turned pale. You think you're the only one trapped? The question hung there, sharp and unexpected. He exhaled, slow and ragged. 2 years ago, I could run business meetings, climb mountains, sleep with whoever I wanted, without thinking twice. Now I can't even stand long enough to kiss my own wife at our wedding, without looking pathetic. Solange's throat closed. He looked away, jaw working. You're not the prisoner here, you're the audience. Something cracked inside her chest. She crossed the remaining distance and crouched in front of the chair, so they were eye level. I didn't sign up to watch you suffer, she said softly, and I'm not going to pretend this is normal. His gaze snapped back to hers, close enough now that she could see the faint scar above his left eyebrow. The way his eyelashes were unfairly long. For the first time, he didn't look like the untouchable heir. He looked human. You should leave, he said, but the words lacked strength. I can't, she answered. Not yet. Neither of them moved. Then slowly, he lifted a hand. His fingertips brushed the side of her face. Just once. Barely there. Like he was testing whether she was real. Solange didn't flinch. His thumb lingered at the corner of her mouth. You're not afraid of me. I'm afraid of a lot of things, she whispered. You're not one of them. The air between them turned electric. He leaned forward just a fraction. She met him halfway. Their lips brushed once, twice, then harder, hungrier. His hands slid into her braids, holding the back of her head like she might disappear. She gripped the arms of his chair for balance, tasting salt and cedar, and the first real thing she'd felt since landing in Seoul. It lasted seconds, maybe 10. Then he pulled back, breathing uneven. Get out, he said again, but this time his voice cracked. Solange stood on shaky legs. Her lips tingled. Her heart was a war drum. She walked to the door without looking back, but as she reached the doorway, she heard him murmur, almost too low to catch. Be careful who you trust in this house, Solange. She paused, hand on the doorknob. I already am. She stepped into the hallway. Behind her, the study door closed with a soft final sound, and somewhere deep in the mansion, someone else was listening. The kiss stayed like smoke in Solange's lungs for 3 full days. She avoided the study, avoided the east wing where Gi-hun's private gym was, avoided the dining room at mealtimes. She told herself it was strategy. Keep distance, keep control. But every time she closed her eyes, she felt the press of his mouth. The way his fingers had tightened in her braids, like he was afraid she'd vanish. On the 4th morning, Mrs. Kim knocked once and entered without waiting for permission. Madame, Park requests your presence at dinner tonight, she said in careful English. Family only. 8 o'clock. Solange looked up from her sketch pad. Tell her I'm not hungry. The housekeeper's eyes flickered with something close to pity. It is not a request. Solange breathed out through her nose. Fine. She wore blacker, sleek hind jumpsuit she designed last year, tailored to perfect sharpness, power armor. When she walked down the grand staircase at 7:58, every head in the formal dining room turned. Madame Sujin sat at the head of the long black table, spine straight as a blade. To her right, MG Ji-hoon's younger sister, 30, and meanly beautiful. Red lipstick, the color of fresh blood. 2 Sujins left, an empty chair that Solange assumed was meant for Jihan. 3 other seats remained empty. Distant relatives or placeholders, she didn't care. Imjai spoke first, voice sweet and sharp. "You're late." "I'm exactly on time," Solange replied, sliding into the chair opposite Imjai. Fashionably so, Sujin's smile was thin. "We value being on time in this house." "Then you'll love New York traffic," Solange said. Imjai laughed once, short and cold. "How charming. Tell me, does your community always speak so freely at dinner?" "My community," Solange repeated slowly, "values honesty and good food." This fisherkin, the first course, arrived. Steamed sea bass with ginger and scallions. Solange pushed it aside. Jihan wheeled in at that moment, cutting the tension like a blade. He wore a charcoal sweater over a white shirt, sleeves rolled to the elbows. His eyes found Solange immediately, held for 2 heartbeats, then moved away. "Good evening," he said to the room. Sujin nodded her head. "Son, we were just getting to know your wife." "Were you?" Ji-hoon's tone was neutral, but the air shifted. Imjai leaned forward. "We were discussing how fortunate you are. Opium, American alliance, a beautiful accessory, and so convenient for uncle's merger talks." Solange's fork paused mid-air. "Excuse me." Imjai smiled sweetly. "Didn't he tell you? The real reason for this charming little marriage is your uncle's fiber optic patents. Park Global needs them desperately. Your father's debts were simply the perfect tool." Solange's gaze snapped to Jihan. He didn't flinch. "It's business. It's forcing people," she said quietly. Sujin dabbed her mouth with cloth. "It is necessity. The company is under attack. We needed stability. You provided it." Solange set her fork down. "And what happens when the merger closes? Do I get shipped back with a nice goodbye package?" Imjai laughed again. "Oh, darling, you'll be lucky if you last the year." Jihan's voice cut through. "Enough." The table fell silent. He looked at his mother. "Solange is my wife. Treat her as such." Sujin's eyes narrowed. "She is a means to an end, nothing more." Solange stood. "I'm not staying for this." She walked out, heels clicking on marble, heart pounding. Behind her, Imjai called sweetly, "Run along, Cinderella. The clock's already ticking." Solange didn't stop until she reached the rooftop terrace. The night air was cool, smelling like jasmine from the garden below. Seoul glittered beneath her like spilled diamonds. She gripped the railing until her knuckles hurt. Footsteps, the soft hum of wheels. Jihan stopped beside her. "I should have told you." "Yes," she said. "You should have. I thought it would make things worse." "It did," he breathed out. "Before the poisoning, I was different, reckless. I hurt people, used them. And the chair, it happened. I thought maybe it was karma. Then they offered this marriage, and I saw a way to keep fighting. I didn't think about what it would cost you." Solange turned to him. "I'm not your redemption story. I know." His voice dropped. "But I'm starting to wish you were." She searched his face. His city lights carved shadows under his eyes. For the first time, she saw the man beneath the air, tired, cornered, still fighting. Something in her softened just a fraction. Before she could speak, her phone buzzed. New York number. Her mother. She answered on speaker without thinking. Dolores's voice came through thick with tears. "Baby, we need more money. Your father's bill collectors. They're at the door again. They want another 500,000 or they're taking the cars, the furniture." Solange closed her eyes. "Mom, I can't. You have to. You're married to a trillionaire now. Just ask him, please." Jihan's expression didn't change, but his hand tightened. On the armrest, Solange ended the call. Silence swallowed them again. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Don't be." He reached out, fingers brushing hers on the railing. "They're not your fault." Their hands stayed like that, barely touching, but enough. Then her phone buzzed again. Unknown number. A text. "Careful, Mrs. Park. Some secrets are better left buried." Ask your husband about the night of October 12th. Solange's blood ran cold. She showed Jihan the screen. His face went blank. That was the night of the poisoning. She stared at him. Someone's watching us. Before he could answer, the terrace lights flickered, then went out. Darkness swallowed them. A second later, glass shattered somewhere inside the house. Jihan grabbed her wrist. Stay behind me. He wheeled toward the door. Solange followed, pulse roaring in her ears. They reached the hallway just as Tamin appeared, breathless, phone in hand. Sir, intruder in the West Wing. Security is sweeping. Jihan's voice was steel. Lock the house down. Tamin hesitated. Sir, the cameras caught something before they went dark. He turned the phone screen toward them. Grainy footage. A figure in black moving through the hallways. The figure paused, looked directly at the camera, and lifted a gloved hand in a mocking wave. Then the feed cut. Solange's stomach dropped. Jihan's grip on her wrist tightened. Get her to the safe room, he told Tamin. No, Solange said. I'm not hiding. Jihan looked at her. Really looked. Then he nodded once. Fine. He released her wrist, but his fingers slid down to lace with hers instead. Together, they moved into the darkened house, toward whatever waited in the shadows. And somewhere behind them, MJ smiled in the dark. The intruder was gone by the time security swept the West Wing. No broken-in entry, no fingerprints. Just one shattered expensive vase and a single black silk glove left on the floor like a calling card. Tamin bagged it for police tests, but everyone knew this wasn't random. This was personal. Solange didn't sleep that night. She sat on the edge of her bed, phone held in both hands, reading the mystery text again and again, until the words blurred. Jihan didn't come to her room. She didn't expect him to. By morning, the house returned to its polished surface. Breakfast served, staff bowing, everything in place, but the air felt thinner, sharper, like the moment before a storm breaks. At 9:17 a.m., Jihan knocked on her door. He didn't wait for her to say, "Come in." He wheeled inside, wearing a navy suit, tie loosened, looking like he hadn't slept either. "We're going to the office," he said. No introduction. Solange raised an eyebrow. You're coming with me today. Every day until we figure out who's behind this. She crossed her arms. And what exactly am I supposed to do? Sit pretty in your boardroom? No. He met her gaze. You're going to help me launch something new, something they won't expect. She waited. Par Global is rolling out a consumer wearable line next quarter. Smart jewelry, fashion-forward tech. We've been struggling with the design side. Too sterile, too Korean market-focused. You fixed that? Solange laughed once, disbelieving. You want me to design jewelry for your company? After last night I want you to remind them who they married, he said quietly. And I want them to see you're not going anywhere. Something in his tone, quiet steel, made her pause. She studied him. What's the real play? His jaw ticked. MJ controls the current design team. If we launch something she didn't touch, it weakens her story, but I'm too messed up to lead, and it puts you in the room where decisions are made. Solange breathed out. You're using me as a weapon. I'm asking you to be one, he corrected. There's a difference. She let the silence stretch. Then she nodded once. Fine, but I want creative control. No committees, no vetoes. And when this is over, my name goes on it. Coleman, Atelier X Park Global. Done by noon. They were in the executive floor of Park Tower, Gangnam's tallest glass sphere. The conference room smelled of fresh coffee and new money. 20 executives stood when Jihan entered. They bowed to him. They stared at her. She walked in wearing a crimson blazer dress she'd pulled from her own collection. Braids swept into a high crown, gold hoops catching the light. She didn't smile. She didn't bow. Jihan took the head of the table. Solange sat to his right. No one dared sit there. He spoke in crisp Korean, then switched to English for her benefit. We're speeding up the aura line. New direction. Cultural fusion. Miss Coleman, Mrs. Park will lead creative. Murmurs rippled. MJ, seated halfway down the table, leaned forward. Upper, with respect. The design team has already finalized mood boards. We're 2 weeks from prototype. Ji-hun didn't look at her. Then Burnham. The room went still. Solange spoke for the first time. I want sustainable materials. Recycled gold, lab-grown diamonds, African-inspired patterns fused with handbox shapes. Bold, unapologetic, global. One of the older clipped his throat. That may not appeal to our core customers. Solange smiled. Sharp. Your core customers are aging. The future buys identity, not just function. You want to compete with LVMH and Apple. Stop playing safe. Ji-hun's mouth twitched, almost a smile. MGI's eyes narrowed. This is reckless. Ji-hun turned to her. Then step aside, little sister. Or stay and watch. The meeting ended 20 minutes later with Solange given full access. A private studio on the 47th floor, and a team of 6 designers reporting directly to her. She felt the shift the moment they left the conference room. Heads turned in the hallways. Whispers followed. For the first time since arriving in Seoul, people looked at her like she belonged. That night, the rumors started. By morning, Korean gossip sites ran headlines. Park Ji-hun's foreign bride takes over $1 billion project. Diversely push or desperate PR. Mystery sources claimed Solange had seduced her way into the role. One tabloid published grainy photos of her at the wedding, captioned, "Gold digger" or "cultural savior." Solange stared at her phone in the studio, jaw tight. Ji-hun wheeled in at dusk. "I'll sue them," he said without introduction. "Don't." She set the phone down. "Let them talk. It means they're scared." He studied her. "Your handling is better than I expected. I've been black and ambitious my whole life," she said dryly. "This isn't new." He breathed out. "I should have anticipated it." "You should have," she agreed. Then softer. "But you didn't let them stop me. That counts." Their eyes locked. He reached out. She met him halfway. This time the kiss wasn't tentative. It was deliberate, hungry. His hand cupped her face. Hers slid into his hair. When they broke apart, both were breathing hard. Then the door opened. MJ stood there, phone in hand, expression poisonous. "Touching," she said, "but you might want to see this." She turned her screen toward them. A video, Solange's face from years ago. College party. Too much tequila. Dancing on a table in a crop top. The caption, "The future of Park Global, or just another party girl." MJ smiled. "It's already trending." Solange's stomach dropped. Ji-hun's voice was ice. "Take it down." "I didn't post it," MG said sweetly, "but I know who did. And they're not finished." She walked out, heels clicking. Solange stared at the frozen frame of her younger self. Then she looked at Ji-hun. "I need to go home," she said quietly. "To New York's is for a few days." "I need to go home," she said quietly. "To New York's is for a few days." He didn't argue. 2 days later, her father arrived unannounced at the mansion. Malcolm Coleman looked smaller than she remembered, gray at the temples, shoulders hunched. He carried a beat-up bag and the smell of cheap whiskey. He didn't hug her. He looked around the entrance hall like he was prizing it. "They're treating you right?" he asked. Solange crossed her arms. "What do you want, Daddy?" He shifted. "Your mama said you could help just a little more. One last time." Ji-hun wheeled in behind her. Malcolm's eyes flicked to the chair, then away. "Is the husband?" "This is my husband," Solange said. Malcolm swallowed. "I just need 50,000 to settle things, then I'm gone." Ji-hun spoke before Cliff, "You'll get nothing." Malcolm bristled. "This ain't your business, son." "It's very much my business," Ji-hun said. "You sold your daughter. You don't get to come back for seconds." Malcolm's face darkened. "You think you're better than me because you got money and a fancy chair." Solange stepped between them. "Enough." She looked at her father. "Go home. Get help. I'm done bailing you out." Malcolm stared at her, eyes wet. Then he turned and left without another word. The door closed. Solange's shoulders shook. Ji-hun reached for her hand. She let him take it. That night, in the dim light of his bedroom, They crossed the final line. No hesitation, no questions, just skin on skin, breath on breath. The wheelchair pushed aside, his arms surprisingly strong as he pulled her down. Afterward, lying tangled in silk sheets, he whispered against her temple, "I can walk a little experimental stem cell therapy. I've been hiding it." Solange lifted her head. "Why?" "Because if they know I'm recovering, they'll speed up whatever they're planning." She searched his face. "You'll trust me with this." "I'll trust you with more than that," he said. She kissed him again, slow, deep, sealing something unspoken. Then his phone buzzed. "Tammin, sir. The board just received an anonymous tip. Evidence of stealing money pointing straight at you, Mrs. Park." Solange went cold. Ji-hoon's arms tightened around her, and in the distance, thunder rolled over Seoul. The storm had arrived. The hospital room smelled of medicine and regret. Cliff Hun lay under crisp white sheets, monitors beeping in steady rhythm, for dripping clear liquid into his arm. The collapse had come fast. Overexertion, the doctor said. Too much strain on a body still healing from years of poison damage. He'd pushed too hard, too soon, trying to prove he could stand for her. Solange sat beside the bed, still in last night's silk robe, hair loose and wild. She hadn't left his side in 18 hours. His eyes opened slowly. "You look like hell." He tried to smile. "Potkettle, you look worse." He reached for her hand. His fingers were cold. "I'm sorry." "Don't," she squeezed. "You told me the truth. That's more than anyone else in this house has done." A soft knock. Taemin slipped inside, face serious. "Sir, the board called an emergency meeting. They received documents, bank transfers, forged signatures, all pointing to Mrs. Park." Solange's stomach dropped. Gi-hun's grip tightened. "Show me." Taemin handed over a tablet. Scanned PDFs, wire transfers from Park global accounts to offshore shells. One account in the Cayman Islands had Solange's name on it. Another transfer went through a New York company registered under Coleman Atelier. Solange stared at the screen. "This is fake. I've never seen these accounts." Ji-hun's jaw worked. "I know." But the doubt was there, faint, in the way his gaze flickered. She pulled a hand away. "You think I did this?" "No." The word came too quickly, then quieter. "I don't want to." Silence filled the room like smoke. Taemin cleared his throat. "The board is demanding an explanation. They're threatening to suspend your authority, sir. And they've asked Mrs. Park to appear." Solange stood. "Then I'll go." Gi-hun tried to sit up. "Solange, no." Her voice was steel. "I'm not hiding. Not from this." She left the room before he could argue. The boardroom on the 52nd floor of Park Tower felt like a courtroom. 23 executives in tailored suits watched her enter. Mjai sat at the far end, expression calm. Sujin occupied the chair beside her, ice cold as winter marble. Ji-hun's father, Park Hyun-woo, had flown in overnight. He sat at the head, silver-haired, intimidating the man who'd built the empire before handing it to his son. He hadn't spoken to Ji-hun in 2 years. Now he looked at Solange like she was an insect. Mrs. Park, Hyun-woo said, "Explain these transactions." Solange walked to the center of the room. No notes, no lawyer, just her. "I can't," she said simply, "because they're fabricated." A murmur rippled. Mjai leaned forward. "Convenient. The same week you're granted creative control. Millions disappear, and the trail leads straight to your struggling little fashion house." "My house is clean," Solange said. "You planted this." "Proof?" Hyun-woo asked. "I'll get it." She turned to leave. Hyun-woo's voice stopped her. "You will not. Until this is resolved, you are barred from all Park Global premises, and we are recommending annulment proceedings." Solange spun back. "You don't get to decide that. I decide what protects this family," he said. "And right now, you are a liability." She looked at Sujin. "You agree with this?" Sujin's lips thinned. "It is necessary." Solange's laugh was bitter. "Necessary, like poisoning your own son was necessary." Gasps. Emgi stood. "How dare you?" Solange cut her off. "I dare, because I know the thallium. The night of October 12th. You did it, MJ. To clear your path. MJ's face went white. Hyun-woo slammed a hand on the table. Enough. Security. Escort her out. 2 guards moved toward her. Solange lifted her chin. I'm leaving. But this isn't over. She walked out with her head high, heels echoing down the hallway. Back at the mansion, she packed one small suitcase. Her phone rang as she zipped it closed. Her mother. Dolores sounded small. Baby, I'm so sorry. Your father, he told them everything. About the debts. About how he pushed you into this. They paid him to talk to make you look desperate. Solange closed her eyes. I didn't know until after, Dolores whispered. I thought we were saving the family. Solange's voice cracked. You sold me twice. Silence, then softly. I'm on my way to the airport. I'm coming to Seoul. I'll fix this. Don't, Solange said. Stay away. She hung up. Her hand drifted to her stomach. She hadn't told anyone yet, not even Jihan. 2 pink lines on a test that morning. A secret she'd carried alone while he lay in a hospital bed. She sat on the edge of the bed, tears falling silently. The door opened. Jihan wheeled in, still pale, still weak, but determined. He stopped when he saw the suitcase. Where are you going? Home, she said. New York. His face crumbled, because of the board, because of everything. She stood. The frame job. Father, your family. You looked at me like you weren't sure. I was in shock, he said. I never believed, but you doubted. Her voice broke, even for a second. And that's enough. He reached for her. She stepped back. I love you, he said. The words raw, unplanned. I didn't plan to. I didn't want to. But I do. Solange's breath hitched. I'm pregnant, she whispered. His eyes widened. But then something softer, something like wonder. Solange, I can't stay here, she said. Not like this. Not when every day is another knife. I need to breathe. I need to think for me. For us. She picked up the suitcase. Jihan's voice was rough. I'd have 2. She walked past him at the door. She paused. If you want us, she said, come find us. Prove you trust me. Prove you'll fight for us and Chester Company. Then she left. The mansion doors closed behind her with a final heavy sound. Gihan stared after her, hands clenched on the arms of his chair. In the silence, his phone buzzed. A new message from an unknown number. She's gone. Good. Now finish what we started. He stared at the screen. Then he looked at the empty doorway, and something in him hardened into determination. The game wasn't over. It was just beginning. New York welcomed Solange back like an old lover. Loud, chaotic, unapologetic. She landed at JFK on a grey January morning. The kind where the sky pressed low and the wind carried the smell of pretzels and exhaust. She took a cab straight to Brooklyn, to the same walk-up she'd lived in before Seoul swallowed her whole. The studio apartment still smelled faintly of lavender candles and fabric dye. Her sewing machine waited on the table like a patient friend. She didn't unpack for 3 days. She slept in fits, hand resting on the small swell of her belly, whispering promises to the life inside her. We're going to be okay, she told it. Maman's got plans. Coleman Atelier came back to life faster than she expected. The investment from Park Global had hit her account months earlier. Quiet, unannounced, sent through an anonymous company. She knew who sent it. She didn't thank him. Not yet. She hired 2 assistants, rented a small showroom in Dumbo, and started sketching again. The new collection was fierce. Bold African prints fused with minimalist Korean lines, gold-threaded reimagined as she called it Crossroads. Every piece felt like a middle finger to the people who tried to erase her. But the nights were harder. She dreamed of cedar and bergamot, of strong hands in her hair, of a voice saying, I love you, like it was a confession and a prayer. She ignored every call from Seoul, blocked the private numbers. When her mother showed up at the door 2 weeks later, tear-streaked and carrying a bag of takeout from Sylvia's Solange, let her in, but only because the smell of fried chicken made her stomach growl. "I was wrong," Dolores said, sitting on the edge of the couch like she might break it. "Your father's in rehab. I made him go. I'm selling the house to pay back what we can." Solange stared at her plate. "It's too late for apologies, Mama." "I know." Dolores's voice cracked. "But I'm here. If you'll let me." Solange didn't answer, but she didn't ask her mother to leave either. Kihan arrived on the last Friday in February. She found out from the doorman, who buzzed up looking confused. "Mrs. Coleman, there's a man downstairs. Says he's your husband. He's walking." Solange's heart stopped. She went to the window. Below, on the cracked sidewalk, Jihan stood beside a black Escalade. No wheelchair. A sleek cane in his right hand. Black coat, collar turned up against the wind. He looked up, found her window, and held her gaze. She felt the baby kick hard as if in recognition. She buzzed him up. When the door opened, he didn't speak at first. Just stood there, breathing a little fast, like the walk up 3 flights had cost him. "You're walking," she said, voice barely, above a whisper. "Therapy every day since you left." He leaned on the cane. "Not perfect, but enough." She crossed her arms. "Why are you here?" "Because I love you." Simple, no fancy words. "And because I'm an idiot who doubted you for 3 seconds too long." He swallowed. "You hurt me? I know." He stepped closer. "I'm here to fix it. Or at least start." Her eyes flicked over the cane. "You flew across the world on your feet. I would have crawled." Silence stretched. Then she stepped aside. "Come in." They sat on opposite ends of the couch. She offered water. He declined. "I fired MJ," he said. "She's under investigation. Stealing money, attempted corporate sabotage, conspiracy in the poisoning. The evidence was always there. I just didn't want to see it." Solange nodded slowly. "Your mother apologized." In tears. She's stepping back from the board. "My father is retiring early. I'm taking full control, and the company's thriving. The Aura line is in progress. They're calling it a cultural phenomenon." He met her eyes. "Your name is on every piece." She breathed out. "Good." Another beat. He reached into his coat pocket, pulled out a small velvet box. Her breath caught. He opened it. A ring. Platinum band. A single oval diamond with 2 smaller black diamonds on the sides. Simple. Stunning. Perfect. "I never gave you a real one," he said. "This one is yours. No contract, no timeline. Just us." She stared at the ring, then at him. "I'm pregnant," she said again, softer this time. "I know." His voice was rough. "Tamin told me after you left. I've been counting days, trying not to lose my mind." He laughed small, watery. "You're going to be a father." His eyes glistened. "I want to be more than anything." She looked down at her hands. "I'm scared, me too." He set the box on the table between them. "Plum here, and I'm not leaving unless you tell me to." She reached hard, not for the ring, for his hand. Their fingers laced. She pulled him closer. The kiss was slow, full of everything they hadn't said. When they broke apart, she rested her forehead against his. "We're doing this right," she whispered. "No more games, no more secrets." Agreed. Later that night, after they talked until their voices were hoarse, after he'd held her while she cried, after he'd kissed the curve of her belly and whispered Korean lullabies to the baby, her phone buzzed. A news alert. Park Global heiress, MJ, arrested in Seoul. Multi-billion fraud and attempted murder charges. Solange showed him the screen. Jihan breathed out. "OV, not quite," she said. "There's still one thing left." She picked up the ring box, held it out. To him. "Ask me properly." He smiled, real, unguarded, the first she'd seen like that. Then he slid to one knee, cane propped against the couch, and opened the box again. "Solange Coleman Park," he said, voice steady, despite the tremor in his hand. "Will you marry me for real this time? Forever?" She looked down at him, stronger, humbler, hers. "Yes," she said, and when he slid the ring onto her finger, it fit, like it had always belonged there. Outside, snow began to fall over Brookline, soft and quiet. Inside, two broken people started building something unbreakable. Together, 6 months later, the cherry blossoms in Seoul had long since fallen, replaced by the heavy green of summer. The Park Estate garden had been transformed. White orchids mingled with vibrant hibiscus, and bird of paradise flowers flown in from Lagos. Lanterns hung beside strings of cowrie shells. A small wooden platform stood under a canopy of arches where two cultures would meet again, this time, not as obligation, but as celebration. Solange stood in the bridal suite, barefoot on cool marble, wearing a gown she designed herself. Ivory silk flowed into wide sleeves like a modern hanbok, but the bodice was hand-embroidered with Yoruba edaya, patterns in gold thread. A delicate gold headpiece rested against her braids, now threaded with tiny pearls and cowries. She looked in the mirror and saw not the woman who'd been sold, but the one who'd chosen. Her mother stood behind her, adjusting the veil. Dolores had been in Seoul for 3 months now, living quietly in a guest house on the estate, attending therapy with Malcolm, who'd stayed sober for the first time in years, and slowly rebuilding trust, one quiet conversation at a time. "You're glowing," Dolores whispered, eyes shining. "Not just the baby. You," Solange smiled. "I feel like I'm finally home." A soft knock. Taemin poked his head in. "It's time, Mrs. Park," she breathed out. "Let's do this." The ceremony was small. 50 guest family, only. No press, no show. Jihan waited on the platform, in a tailored black tuxedo, with subtle silver embroidery that matched Solange's gown. He stood without a cane now, though he still used one for long distances. His posture was straighter than she'd ever seen. When he saw her walking toward him on her father's arm, his eyes filled. Malcolm's steps were careful, respectful. He kissed Solange's cheek at the platform steps, and placed her hand in Jihan's, without a word. The two men looked at each other, silent acknowledgement of everything that had passed. The person performing the ceremony spoke in both English and Korean. They renewed vows they'd never truly spoken the first time. "I, Jihan Park, take you, Solange Coleman Park, not because of contracts or empires, but because you saw me when I couldn't see myself. I promise to stand beside you literally and always, to love you fiercely, trust you completely, and build a family with you that honors every part of who we are." Solange's voice trembled only once. "I, Solange Coleman Park, take you, Jihan, not because I had no choice, but because I choose you. Every day, I promise to fight with you, for you, beside you, to raise our child with love that knows no borders, to remind you that you are more than your scars, and to let you remind me of the same." Rings were exchanged, simple platinum bands, engraved inside with the date of their first real kiss in the study. Then the officiant smiled. "You may kiss your wife." Jihan cupped her face with both hands. The kiss was slow, deep, full of promises kept and promises still to come. When they parted, the small crowd erupted, clapping, cheers, a few happy sobs from Dolores. Later, during the reception under the stars, Solange leaned against Jihan on a cushioned bench, while guests mingled around low tables loaded with jollof rice, kimchi jijifufu, bulgogi, and fried plantains. Sujin approached slowly, hands clasped in front of her. She bowed slightly to Solange. "I was wrong," she said in careful English. "I'd bow many things. I see now the strength you brought to this family, and the love you brought to my son." Solange stood. "Thank you. That means more than you know." Sujin's eyes glistened. "May I feel the baby?" Solange guided her mother-in-law's hand to the gentle curve of her belly. A small kick answered. Sujin laughed, surprised, joyful. Jihan watched them, a quiet smile on his face. Later still, when the guests had thinned and the lanterns glowed low, Jihan led Solange to the rooftop terrace. He pulled a small envelope from his pocket. "What's this?" she asked. "Open it." Inside it option papers. She frowned. "Were not for us," he said gently. "For my father's son, half-brother. He was born 25 years ago. My father kept him hidden. Another secret. His mother passed last year. The boy, he's alone, struggling. I want to bring him here. Give him a family. Fiogri Solange looked up at him. You want to take in your brother? I want to stop hiding from the past, from pain, from love. He touched her cheek. And I want our child to grow up knowing that family is chosen, not just inherited. Tears slipped down her face. Yes, she whispered. Yes. 3 months later, in the same hospital where Jihan had once lain broken, Solange gave birth to their daughter. They named her Nia Sujin Park. Nia for purpose, Sujin for the grandmother who had learned to bend. The room filled with family, Dolores holding Malcolm's hand, Sujin crying quietly, Hyun Woo standing awkwardly until Solange waved him closer. Even the newly arrived half-brother, Minsak, hovered at the door, shy and overwhelmed, until Jihan pulled him inside. Nia had her father's dark eyes and her mother's full lips. When she wrapped tiny fingers around Jihan's thumb, he broke. Solange watched him cry quiet, healing tears, and felt something settle deep inside her chest. Years passed in flashes. Coleman Atelier, X-Park Global, became a global brand. Runways in Paris, New York, Lagos, Seoul. Diversity wasn't a buzzword. It was the blueprint. Jihan walked without pain most days. He still used the cane when he was tired, but he danced with his daughter at her first birthday, low and careful, and perfect. Minsak finished university, joined the company, found peace. Malcolm stayed sober. Dolores learned Korean phrases just to make Sujin laugh. And every evening when the city lights came on, Jihoon and Solange sat on the rooftop with Nia between them, telling her stories of poison and betrayal, of forced vows and chosen love, of how two people from opposite sides of the world found each other in the dark and refused to let go. One night, as Nia slept against her father's chest, Solange leaned her head on Jihan's shoulder. Still shocked, she asked, teasing. He kissed her temple. Every day, in the best way. She smiled into the night, and somewhere in the glittering city below, two broken hearts had become one unbreakable family. The end. Hi lovely viewers, thanks for watching till the end. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, share, leave a comment, and click on the notification bell for more exciting stories.